Chapter 37. After the argument Wenzel had caused with Pip and Tony, the social workers were on my case about school absence. I told them I'd start going again if they helped Wenzel get a place to live. It's important at this stage to understand Wenzel didn't train me to behave this way. He wasn't bribing me or forcing me to try and get the place faster. He didn't have to. All he had to do was allow me the freedom to make that choice myself, and I ran with it. Not because I wanted to be with him as much at this stage, I didn't trust him, but simply because I wanted the whole family back together, and I would have done anything within my power to make that happen. The social services agreed they would write a letter that stated Wenzel needed accommodation due to my current circumstances affecting my mental health and education. As soon as I was back at school, I was in trouble again, although I was trying really hard not to be. I was walking down the corridor in my English lesson when I saw a lad called Todd walking towards us, line, whilst our line of people were on the other side. He was tall and strong, but thin. I'd seen him before out of school. I generally avoided him. Every few steps he was punching someone on my side or pushing them, not very hard, but enough to cause a laugh from his mates. I put my head down and carried on walking. Perhaps I wouldn't be hit. Just as he was walking past, he caught me straight in the solar plexus, and I fell back. Let it go, you'll be with Dad soon, and you get the family back together, I told myself, and I let it go. I got up and I went to class. I couldn't concentrate, but I answered all the questions on Romeo and Juliet. I could be earning now. Where's Caroline? What would I say if I did see her? I just couldn't concentrate. I could hardly tell Caroline, hey, Brenda was right, Wenzel's a dickhead, but let's live with him anyway. It didn't seem right. I knew she'd tell Brenda everything I'd said, and they'd be out of Wenzel's. There was no way Brenda would have me back. It was the best to keep quiet. It was lunchtime, and Cap and I were watching the lads play football as we ate our lunch in the concrete pitch. He wanted to skive off, but I told him I couldn't, so he stayed in school with me. Derek Baker was playing ball and kept shoulder barging a smaller lad who almost fell over a few times, until in the end he said, "Fat bastard," quietly to himself. "What did you say?" Derek snarled, turning on him. Perhaps he thought he was a snack. Derek was walking forwards with his head touching the small lads as the smaller boy tried turning away, but couldn't form the momentum. Then he fell over. "What did you say?" Derek spat, landing a kick to the skinny boy. "Nothing, shit," he said as the kicks landed. "I can't watch this," I told Cap as I stood up. "Trace!" Cap called. It was too late. I'd made my mind up. I walked over calmly. "Hey, Derek, what's up?" I asked him, looking down at the skinny lad as I stood next to Derek. "You called me a fat bastard, that's what's up," he shouted, pulling his leg back to kick the curled up figure on the floor. "Well, he's right, you are a fat bastard," I said as calmly as I could manage. "What?" he laughed nervously. Then anger hit. "I'll kill you. I beat you before, you shit," he stormed as he swung at me. I needed him angry, as he fought a lot better when he was calm. He was big, I needed him to make mistakes. "Pick on someone your own size," I said, shuffling backwards. "Oh yeah, there is nobody your size," I said, sidestepping. I was making him chase me the other way. I caught sight of Cap behind me with my bag and coat. I hoped if Derek landed one of those big whirling fists, Cap would cover me up with my coat. Derek ran at me. I sidestepped and kicked at him, catching him just enough to send him over, palms first. He got back up quickly. "What are you going to do, eat me?" I asked him, as I saw a skinny lad laughing in the opposite corner. Derek placed his head down and like a rhino ran straight at me with his arms flailing. I wasn't fast enough to move. I took a couple of hard punches to the face while I tried to grab his arm. His momentum pushed me over, and I had a few tons of fat on top of me. I don't like ground fighting, but I learnt this day I could do it if I had to. I tried flicking my hip out, but it was like trying to move a bus with a toothpick. He was leaning back, straddling me to make big, heavy punches at my head. I kept my guard up until he leaned back to swing, and then threw a jab to his chin, and I covered up again. It wasn't hard, but it was fast enough to let him know I was there, and take a little power out of his punches. I needed him to make mistakes. "Come on, Chunky, hit me!" We continued the same cycle, him throwing huge hooks, and leaning back, and then me jab crossing, till he was bright red in the face. I could feel the power of his punches weaken as they hit my guard. They rattled my head, and then it happened. He made a mistake, as he placed his left arm down to support himself and punched my face with a big straight. I wasn't waiting for that to make contact. I rolled up to the right, grabbing his head with my left arm and his right with my right arm and pinning it. Now he could hit nothing but my side or the floor. I pulled him to the left and started swinging with my right, catching him in the side of the head 2, 3, 4 times. I rolled off, "Get him to his feet, tire him out." He got up slowly as a couple of teachers turned up. There was some chanting from the crowd, but I couldn't hear it. My ear had been crushed for too long, and amidst the adrenaline I had not even noticed it until now. "We done, Lord Horse. I do need to slap you around some more," I asked him. It wasn't my day. He ran at me again, this time punching correctly, and a straight caught my chin and rocked me big time. Tried not to let it show. I unloaded with lefts and rights over and over, stepping forwards, fuck technique. I'm going through this fucker. His head flipped backwards with each punch, but his body remained upright. Two teachers grabbed him and one grabbed me as I instantly relaxed. "I'm calm. You can let go. I won't hit him. I won't run," I said, palms out defensively, as the marbles continued to rattle around in my head. The teacher was Mr. Forth, who I'd later find out was an absolute diamond. "Okay, fine with me," he said, from 2 feet above me. He had long features, and was at least 6 foot tall. He was also very polite, skinny as a rake. He reminded me of a tall Charlie Chaplin. "Okay, come with me," he said. I followed as Derek was trying to fight the teachers. "I'll kill you, you prick! You're dead!" he shouted towards me. Good luck with that, mate. I was getting worse. I'd had numerous detentions for stealing and quite a few for fighting. I was outside the classroom most of the time for answering back, and even Mr. Kilt had given me a roasting and told me next time I'd be expelled. Fine with me, I told him. I was missing my mates more and more, so when a lad called Jason said he was going to run away from home, I saw an opportunity to go camping. "Meet you after school tomorrow?" he asked me as he stood there half my height with a ciggy hanging out of his mouth, his off-brown hair dangling in front of his eyes. He looked like a little hippie. "Fuck that, meet me in the morning, we'll go from there," I told him. "Bring a knife and some tins of food," I added, looking around to see if Wenzel had arrived to pick me up. In the morning, Jason was waiting in school uniform with a change of clothes in his bag. I'd packed food, clothes, first aid kit, matches, a lighter, bin bags, my survival bag, a large Bowie knife, and my .177 gat gun. We hiked from the high school down Whitegate Way into Newpool and through the village behind the fishing area into Pettypool. Jason wasn't used to hiking like I was and kept stopping for a rest. Apparently his mum had caught him smoking pot, which is why he decided to run away instead of apologising and facing the ground. He told me his brother does LSD regularly. She doesn't want him turning out like his brother. "Up there," I said, pointing to the off-public footpath away from the beautiful blue lake. "Fuck, man, why there, man? It's miles away," he asked, catching his breath. "The water falls down the slope. It leaves us dry. It's low enough we won't be seen from the other side of the hill. Plus, we don't disturb too much bracken. Nobody will see us from this side either," I answered. "How do you know all this shit?" he asked. "Scouts," I replied, grabbing his bag, starting the climb up the hill. We got to the camp spot near the top. I'd been here many times before, and would return many more. It's a beautiful, large forest, which we could see sailing down in front of us as the wind hit my back. Below the forest was a huge pool of water that people weren't allowed to fish on, and another forest behind it. One public footpath circling the lake ran in front of us, which was only used by dog walkers and the odd farmer. There was a farm behind us, but I'd met him before. He was sound, and we shared a brew on my camp stove. As long as I didn't leave a mess and didn't go into his field, he didn't care. This was my home. No care placements, no social workers, no family, no rules, no bullshit. It was truly heaven. I showed Jason how to build a bivouac against the same tree I'd used the last time I was there, crisscrossing the branches and covering the lot with bracken taken from further away. "Why not use that?" he said, pointing to the bracken beside us. "It gives us cover and stops some of the wind, makes us harder to find," said planting a sharpened stick into the ground as a support for the windbreak. "Oh, okay, know-it-all. What's next?" he asked. "Shithole," I replied, marking a square out with my stick. We were too tired to do anything larger, and thankfully Jason had brought loo roll. "We sleeping there?" Jason asked, waiting for me to magic out 2 sleeping bags, a TV and a games console. "Yep, fill these with leaves," I said, handing him 2 bin bags as I got to work filling mine, tied them and chucked them in the bivvy. "Keeps us warm, keeps us off the floor. Think of it as a mattress," I told him before he asked. We sat down and brewed up a hot chocolate from my camp pack. "Mate, mind if I say something about what you said earlier?" I asked, as I sat on the floor cross-legged nursing my hot chocolate. "It's okay, man, she's a bitch, that's all," he said, looking at the floor and rolling a smoke. "Sounds to me like she cares about you, man," I said. "What? Well, maybe, but my brother smokes, why can't I? It's dumb. She's dumb," he said, biting his lip. "Maybe he's beyond help. Maybe she doesn't want you doing the shit he does and ending up like him. Sounds like she's worried," I said, putting my half-drunk hot chocolate down, grabbing my ciggies. "You sound like her," Jason said honestly. "Okay, listen up. I'm only going to say this once and then forget it. Just forget I said it, right? I said, lighting my ciggy, not waiting for a reply. I lived in Macclesfield. I told him everything, from moving to Mac to going into care. He looked very pale. So it seems to me you need to sort some shit out. How important is pot to you? How much pot can you do your mum doesn't need to know about? Buy deodorant, cover that shit up for fuck's sake. Or steal your brothers. How important is your mum to you? I'll tell you this, I added, lighting a third ciggy. I love bacon egg like a brother. Never tell him that, obviously, but I do. I'd kill him and I'd blink if it'd bring my mother back, I said, looking out over the field, not being able to look at Jason. I'm sorry, man, he said, holding tears back. Nothing to be sorry about. You didn't kill her, I replied. Here, check this out, I added, pulling the 177 gap from my belt at the back and handed it to him. It was getting dark, so we got some beans on the go and settled close to the fire. Jason was shooting the odd tree with the gap. Oh, you get the bread out, man, I asked him. We picked up from a newsagent's post office on the way down. I stuck a stick in it and toasted it. Butter, I said. The heat from the fire blew in my vision slightly. No, mate, no butter, Jason answered from somewhere beyond the fire. I could hear small animals settling into the forest, some seeking the warmth, most running from it. I should have said, okay, mate, no problem, we'll stick it in the beans, it'll be fine. But what I actually said was, what time's the newsagents open? To which he replied, about 6 a.m, I reckon. That early, I asked. Yeah, man. Okay, if we walk down now, we'll be there by the time it opens. Grab a load of grub and stuff our faces. Deal, I said. It's dark, Jason said, listening for invisible monsters. Yeah, so, come on, bring the gat if you're worried, I said, leaving all the gear at camp, apart from my bowie knife, penknife, money and the gat gun, which Jason had. No weight makes us faster. We hit the road after taking some pot shots at random trees. I ditched the bowie knife out of habit and said I'd pick it up later. Still had the penknife and wasn't willing to lose it versus the risk of getting caught with it. The post office was closed and we had around 20 minutes to wait. Ditch the gap, mate, we'll get it later, I said, just as a silver BMW pulled up beside us. Right, lads, a male voice said, looking closer. I saw black and white uniforms. Yeah, just waiting for the shop to open, mate, I replied as out got 2 coppers. Great, just great. Mind emptying your pockets, boys? One asked. Why? I asked him honestly. In case you have anything that you shouldn't have, he said flatly. Okay, I replied, handing him my knife and money. What's this? He asked. It's a penknife. We've been camping. It's under 3.5 inches long, I replied, feeling smart. I'll decide if it's legal or not. For now, I'm taking this, he told me. What? That's mine, I said, as Jason was going through similar with the other copper. Hey, this one's got a gun, said one of the coppers, standing beside the other and holding the gat like he's 007. He spread his legs and moved the gat from hand to hand. This loaded? He asked us. Yeah, it's 177 snap catch. It's not a push-in, I explained. Why'd you have a loaded gun outside a post office at 6:15 in the morning, I wonder? I hadn't thought of that. Need butter, I replied honestly. 007 was pointing the gat at a mound of earth a few feet away and pulling the trigger, looking more and more puzzled every time nothing happened. I swear, he did everything apart from look down the barrel. The safety is on, I said, trying not to sound like I was talking to a complete moron, and stepped forwards to show him the lever above the thumb grip where I was stopped by the other cop and slung in the car with Jason beside me. I heard a patooey as my mate Cat finally spat out a pellet. The cop got into the car with a smile and placed it on the floor. Figure it out okay? I asked him as Jason pissed himself laughing. I wasn't trying to be funny. I needed these guys on side. Names, the more abrupt and non-gun-toting cop asked me. My name's, I started. Not you, him, he said, pointing to Jason as I raised an eyebrow. Jason Smith, he told me. Address, he asked, and Jason told him. You, he pointed at me. We needed butter. What's the problem here? I asked him, not moving, not raising my voice. You have a gun outside a post office, he fired back. Yeah, and we were camping, I went on. I was cut off again. You'll be picked up by your parents later, where if you insist you needed butter, you'll be released and your items will be returned to you. Name, he insisted. I wasn't happy, he had said parents. I was less happy he had my fishing knife. Jason, I replied. 2 Jasons, seriously? Surname? Argonauts. Can you guess my middle name? I replied, as Jason cracked up with nerves, fear, tiredness and laughter. Have it your way. After 20 questions, Tony was called to pick me up. I got to keep the gat and my knife. I was released with a telling off, and no fucking butter. Jason had been driven home, was a world more shit than I was. Come on, home now, Tony said. No, Tony, I'm sorry, I really am. I am sorry, I mean it, but I'm not going home without my stuff.